What's up, everybody? I hope you're doing great. Hope you're having a great day. Good evening, good morning if it's morning, or good afternoon if it's afternoon. I'm sure in Australia it's still afternoon or whatever. But welcome to another video. Welcome to the channel. I appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Please continue to support the channel. I really appreciate that, guys. And please push the thumbs up button to like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And also please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. Now, guys, I'm going on to the video. Obviously, I want to preview the games that are going to be playing this weekend in the Premier League. I'll start with the games on Saturday, and then I will. In fact, you know what? I'll just do the games of the other four big six clubs, and then I'll do a game for Arsenal and Liverpool. I'll do a separate video for Arsenal and Liverpool. So yeah, guys. I'll start with obviously the fixtures on Saturday. Manchester City will be playing Southampton. They're going to be playing at They're going to be playing at where's this thing? I think it's St Mary's, Southampton Stadium. Now, Southampton actually last season were one of the few teams that we did not beat. Yeah, we didn't beat Liverpool last year. We didn't beat Crystal Palace, and we didn't beat Southampton. I think those are the only three teams in the league last year that we didn't beat. Southampton, we drew against them home and away, and we obviously lost against Crystal Palace at home, and we drew against them away. We drew against Liverpool home and away. So I think it's not gonna be an easy game tomorrow. Now, obviously, the circumstances of last season are different to the ones of this season, because I thought, especially in the reverse fixture that was playing at St Mary's. So we first played against Southampton last season at home. That fixture was last year when we played at the Etihad, and actually they would have felt hard done by not to get a win, because they completely outplayed us in that game for like 60 minutes before we kind of stepped it up and we created a few opportunities and we scored, and then the game ended up being 1-1. But I thought at St Mary's, I thought they scored in the opening, I think, 2 minutes, and they were leading for the majority of the game. We scored through Laporte around the 60th minute with a header, and from then on, we just dominated them, completely dominated them. I think Kevin De Bruyne had hit the post twice. So I thought we're really unlucky not to win at St Mary's. But when we played at the Etihad, I thought they were really unlucky not to win because they completely outplayed us. But obviously, the big difference now is that we've got the big man up top. We've got Erling Haaland playing up top for us. We don't need to play well to win now. Whereas last season or 2 seasons ago, if we didn't play well, it was really difficult for us to kind of win a game. The only game I remember last year when we didn't play well but still won was the game we played against Arsenal at Emirates. But really, the reason why we didn't win was not because of the reason why we won was not because of our brilliance, but because of Arsenal's stupidity. Because they got a red card when they were on top of us in the game, and that kind of changed things. We started dominating the game. We started growing confidence in the game. We scored at the 90th minute. We scored a 90th minute winner, and we ended up winning the game like that. That really, as far as I can remember, is the only game last season when we played we played bad, but we still won. All the other games, we needed to kind of like play well in order for us to win. But things are different this season because we didn't play well against Crystal Palace. We won 4-2. We didn't play well against Newcastle. We drew 3-3. And we didn't play well against Dortmund in the Champions League. We won 2-1. And the major difference between last season and this season is that we've got Haaland. And therefore, every chance we create, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a goal. Because we're creating for a clinical finisher, a guy who is lethal up top. So now, it's a total different situation this season than it was last season. And as great as Southampton could play against us tomorrow, and they might have a 2-0 lead, let's say, we could still win the game, and we could still win the game quite comfortably, like by 2 or more goals, because we've got Haaland up top. But the reason why I'm kind of making this point is that I'm kind of giving credit to Southampton because they are a good side, and Ralph Hasenhüttl is a good coach in terms of, like, he drills his players and he gets the best out of his players. Now, obviously, Southampton have kind of changed their approach a little bit this season, in that they've gone for young players instead of, like, kind of keeping the players that they've had for a number of years, and kept on kind of like being in a bit of a relegation scrap, being safe, but kind of still be in the bottom 5 by the time the season ends, even though they don't get relegated, but still be in the bottom 5. So I think they had kind of like a review of the footballing philosophy and how they approach proceedings at Southampton. Like, when I say they, I mean Ralph Hasenhüttl and the owners and the board of directors. They kind of had a review, and they decided to move forward by trying to sign the best young players around the country, and to try and kind of improve from there. And that's why they signed some of our youth players from our academy, because our team, our EDS team, so EDS means Elite Development Squad. It's basically our academy team, and it's the team that plays for us in Premier League 2. Now, Premier League 2 is the youth version of the Premier League. And we've been dominating that league for a number of years now, kind of winning it. I think we retained it last season, if I'm not mistaken. So we do have some of the best players around the country, around England, because in that competition, the players who compete, the teams that are competing are the same teams that are in the Premier League. So it's Chelsea, it's Liverpool, it's City, it's United. It's all the teams that are in the Premier League. They compete in that Premier League too. And we win it, we run away with it, we kind of dominate it. And that's why those players that we had in that Elite Development Squad, they kind of decided that they wanted to kind of try something new, because also there's another young lad called CJ Egan Riley, and he went to the Championship to Burnley because Vincent Kompany obviously went there, and Vincent Kompany was at the football club, and some of the youth players know him. So that's why he went there. And also Romeo Lavia is another youth player that we had in our team. He was training with the first team. He was part of that Elite Development Squad. He went to Southampton. There's also a couple of other players that went to Southampton from our youth squad. And also there's their goalkeeper, Gavin Bazunu. He came from our team. They basically bought him from us. Last season he was on loan, I think in the Championship or something. But then Southampton bought him this past summer. And so basically they've kind of changed their approach to kind of putting their faith in young players. And obviously they've had kind of a rocky start. They've won a few games, but they've also lost some games. And that's kind of the nature that you kind of have to deal with when you have youth players in your team, in that it's going to be inconsistent, and you're going to win some games, you're going to draw some games. For example, they beat Chelsea, but I think they lost against some of the bottom teams in the Premier League at the moment. So that's kind of the nature of the situation when you're going to put all your faith in youth players. But I think Southampton are a good side. They play at a very high intensity. They press. They're gonna try and press us. They're gonna try and kind of like make it difficult for us. But I don't think it's going to be a tough game against them, simply because we have Haaland, and also the fact that they press means there are going to be some spaces to attack, and because there are going to be some spaces to attack, Erling Haaland will inevitably get a chance, and he will score a goal because he's just that lethal and that phenomenal in front of goal. So I think, as much as I give credit to Southampton in terms of what they've done in previous seasons, in terms of what they did against us last season, basically managing to get a draw against us in both fixtures last season that we played, I give credit to them. But I sincerely feel like it's a totally different game at this moment in time. And also the fact that they're putting their faith in young players, I just don't think they're going to be capable of beating us tomorrow. I think it's going to be a matter of damage limitation for them, because I think we will score more than probably 2 goals. I think it's just going to be a matter of trying to maybe score from there. This is how I think this is how they're going to look at the game. It's going to be a matter of them trying to score and trying to keep the scoreline down and make sure that we don't score 5 or 6 or 7 against them, because we are perfectly capable of doing that against them. But yeah, I think it's going to be a good game. But I am fully confident that we will win the game. Unless, of course, we have a stinker and someone has a stinker defensively and we give the ball away to them and they score from our mistakes and all of that stuff. But I think even if we concede 2 goals against Southampton, I still think we're going to win. And that's just the confidence that Erling Haaland brings to the table. Because having him in the team, and having De Bruyne in the team, and having Phil Foden in the team, having Jack Grealish in the team, having Bernardo Silva in the team, inevitably you will create chances because you have top players going forward. Having Cancelo in the team, you will eventually create chances. And because you're creating chances for a guy as lethal as Erling Haaland, eventually you will score. That's how I feel at this moment in time. I think we'll probably go with the team of Edison in goal, Cancelo at right back, because Walker is currently out with a groin injury. He just had surgery. I think he had surgery on Wednesday on his groin. So I think we're going to go with Cancelo at right back. I think we'll go with Akanji and Ake at centre back, because Ruben Diaz and Laporte played the full 90 minutes against Copenhagen in the Champions League midweek. So I don't think they're going to play. I think Ake and Akanji are going to retain their places in the Premier League team as they played against Man United last week. And then I think Sergio Gomez is going to play left back, because he played really well against Man United when he came on. Also played really well when he played against Copenhagen. I think Rodri is going to be back in the team because he was back in the squad for the game against Copenhagen, and he's been training, I think, since Tuesday. So I think he should be back in the team. Also to kind of give Gundogan a rest, because Gundogan played against Man United, also played against Copenhagen. I think De Bruyne is going to come back to the side because he was rested against Copenhagen. And I think Bernardo Silva is going to play in the midfield. I think Phil Foden is going to play in the right wing, and I think Grealish is going to play left wing, and Haaland is going to play up top. So I think I'm fully confident we're going to be able to beat Southampton tomorrow. I'm going for a 3-0 City win. And then Tottenham tomorrow also are going to be playing Brighton and Hove Albion. Now, Tottenham have not, they've been a bit shaky. They lost against Sporting Lisbon in the Champions League. They lost against Arsenal last week. Even though I think last week, yes, people were criticizing them for counter-attacking and being too negative. But I think on another day, Spurs could have been better offensively in that game against Arsenal, because there's a couple of opportunities when they were able to break on Arsenal, but because they were not precise with their passing, they then weren't able to create those clear-cut opportunities that they would have liked to create and that they normally create with their front players. So I think they would have been very disappointed with their performance against Arsenal last week, because they simply did not. Obviously, they had the red card, and then they were completely dominated from then on. And they were being completely dominated even before they had the red card. But after they had the red card, it was game over, and they were never going to kind of score against Arsenal. And Arsenal went on to score the third goal and ended up winning the game 3-1. But I think their performances have been a bit shaky this season. Their front players are not playing as well as they can. I think Harry Kane has 7 goals in the Premier League, if not 6, which is a decent return for him. But he's not really playing well. He scored some goals, but he's not really playing well. And playing to the maximum of his capabilities, as we know, as we know him, as we know he can. Like, he's not playing at the very highest level that he normally plays at all the time. Heung-min Son is a shadow of himself. Apart from that hat-trick he scored against Leicester City before the international break, he's been a shell of himself. Or he's been a shadow of himself, really, not a shell. I don't know where I got that from, but he's been a shadow of himself, really. He's not really looking good in terms of his performances, and really we've come to expect such high level performances from Heung-min Son, and at this moment in time he's performing way below that level. And then Richarlison has been decent so far this season. Their midfield has been decent. It's just that they're not firing offensively. they do have a spark from time to time, and that's how they've won the games that they've won this season, in that they've had a bit of a spark in spells so far this season, and that has propelled them to the win. But they are having too many inconsistent performances from game to game, and they're not playing at that high level offensively that we know they can play at. And this weekend they're playing Brighton, and Brighton are a very good side. As they showed against Liverpool last week, they could have been 4-0 up in the first half against Liverpool if they were clinical with their opportunities. And they are able to outplay many teams in the Premier League because of their style of play. And the great thing for them is that even though they've lost Graham Potter as their head coach, the coach that has come through plays exactly the same style as Graham Potter. So he's not going to change much to the team. And he's going to keep playing the players that have basically been reliable so far this season. And the players completely understand the way he wants to play, because it's exactly the same way that Graham Potter played with them. So that's the great thing for Brighton. So there's not going to be kind of like a transitional period from Graham Potter to this new manager, because there's not going to be any change of style. So I think it's going to be a tough game for Tottenham. I think Brighton are going to dominate them, and Brighton are going to create loads of opportunities against them based on how Spurs have performed this season. And based on how bad their offensive players are so far this season, I'm actually backing Brighton to win. I'm going to actually have Trossard and McAllister in my FPL team. I already have them. I'm not going to sell them. I'm going to sell Harry Kane because I think Brighton actually have a great opportunity to win against Tottenham because they're going to outplay them, and because the Spurs players are not really great offensively at this moment in time. I think they're going to misfire. I think Brighton are going to punish them. And I think Brighton are going to win the game. I seriously believe that. Because last season, if you watch them, Spurs, they were beaten by Brighton last season at home. So at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, Brighton, I think, won 3-1. And they completely outplayed them. And I think exactly the same thing is going to happen. I fully back Brighton to beat Tottenham. Based on how Tottenham have performed so far this season. They haven't been great all season. They've managed to pick up wins because their offensive players have had a few sparks here and there, and as a result, were able to kind of propel them to the wins. But I think Brighton, because of how great they play offensively and how solid they are defensively, I think they're going to win against Tottenham. I'm gonna go for a 3-1 Brighton win. I think Trossard is going to be on the score sheet. I think it's going to be a 3-1 Brighton win. I really love the way Brighton and Hove Albion play. I think they play an attacking style of football. I think they're a breath of fresh air in the Premier League. They kind of they're one of those teams that don't spend as much money, but they give you a game. Even though your team spends 200 million in one window or whatever, but they will give you a good game, even though they spend just 50 million. And actually, it's remarkable how great Brighton are doing with the fact that they sold Marco Correa, who was their player of the season last year. They sold him to Chelsea, and they also sold Yves Bissouma to Tottenham. But they're still performing at a very high level. So I think it's testament to their recruitment. It's testament to their hard work on the training pitch with the coaches. In terms of the fact that they're still doing great at this moment in time, despite having sold one of their best players last season, and also they've now lost their coach, but they still gave Liverpool a game last week at Anfield and probably deserved to win the game. But yeah, I think Brighton are a really good side. I think they're going to beat Tottenham this weekend. I'm going for a 3-1 Brighton win. And then obviously, the other game is between Chelsea and Wolves. Chelsea are going to be playing Wolverhampton Wanderers. I think Wolves have just sacked their manager, Bruno Lage. He was sacked on Monday after losing last week. Who did he lose against last week? Who are they playing against? Okay, I don't quite remember who they played against last week, but they lost their game last week and Bruno Lage was sacked as a result. I don't think they have a new coach at this moment in time. I think they're looking at Julen Lopetegui. He's a Spanish coach who used to coach the Spanish national team. He has also been just sacked by Sevilla after losing 4-1 against Dortmund midweek in the Champions League. He was sacked on Wednesday. And I think that is the coach that Wolves want to replace Bruno Lage. Now, Wolves, I think it was a bit harsh to kind of sack Bruno Lage because I think they're not playing bad as in they're awful or they're atrocious. The one thing they just struggle with is scoring goals. They simply don't have enough goals in their team. They don't have goals from midfield. They don't have goals from attack. And as a result, even if they keep a clean sheet, they end up drawing a game because they don't have enough potency up front. Like they played Tottenham earlier this season and they lost 1-0. But in the first half or in the first 60 minutes of that game, they completely outplayed Tottenham. But they can't capitalize on outplaying teams because they don't have finishers. They don't have players who are potent on the offensive end. And I think that's what they're struggling with at this moment in time. Is the fact that they simply don't have enough going forward with regards to their players. And as a result, they struggle offensively and they struggle to create, they don't struggle to create chances, but they struggle to finish chances. And as a result, if you can't score goals, you're always going to struggle to win because you have to score to win. You can't, if you don't score, you're not going to win. Even if you keep a clean sheet, you're going to draw. So I think it was a bit harsh on Bruno Lage. Obviously, it's done now. He's been sacked. I think Chelsea have picked up the slack since Graham Potter has taken charge. He drew his first game in the Champions League. He won in the Premier League last week, even though really he was lucky to win because Crystal Palace actually played well in that game. But Crystal Palace play well at Selhurst Park and they're a decent outfit to play against. They're a very tough team to play against. And they obviously won convincingly in the Champions League. They won 3-0. So, based on the fact that Wolves can't seem to score, and now they kind of abandoned, I don't know what the new coach, well, not the new coach, but the assistant coach who is now the head coach, the acting head coach or the interim head coach, I don't know how he's going to play. Is he going to go back to that back five that they used to play last season? Or is he going to continue to play a back four like how Bruno Lage was playing a back four so far this season? I think them playing a back four has kind of made them a lot more vulnerable to being punished because there are more spaces to attack when you play against them. And as good as they are at kind of attacking as well, they can't score. And as a result, they concede goals and therefore they lose games because they can't score. So I think I would be fully confident if I was a Chelsea fan coming up against them based on how they performed so far this season, not being potent enough, not being able to finish their chances. I think Chelsea I think they're gonna win the game. I think they're gonna win quite convincingly. I'm not going to be surprised if Wolves have a few spells in the game when they dominate the ball, when they kind of control the game. But it doesn't help controlling the game if you don't score. You need to score goals in order to give yourself a chance to win. And I think that's the problem that Wolves have at this moment in time. They control spells of the game, but they can't score. And as a result, they struggle. And that's why they are thinking that's why Bruno Lage was sacked. That's why they're struggling to kind of get points on the board. They're getting draws, but they're not getting wins because they can't score any goals. So I would fully back Chelsea to win simply because I think Chelsea have enough going forward to score against Wolves. And as a result, they will win ultimately because Wolves don't score enough. And I think it's inevitable that Chelsea are going to win. So I'm going to go for a 2-0 Chelsea win. I think Chelsea are going to win. I don't think there's any potency in the Wolves team. They play some great football from time to time. They just can't score any goals. And as a result, if you're not going to score goals, you will lose games. And I think that's kind of their dilemma at this moment in time. I think Chelsea are going to win 2-0. And then, obviously, the other game is the Man United game versus Everton. So I've gone through the City game, Chelsea game, Tottenham. Now the other game is Man United Everton, and then I'm gonna do a separate video for the Liverpool Arsenal game. So obviously, Man United last week were completely atrocious, completely outplayed against Manchester City. They were scared in possession against Manchester City. They somehow lost their ability, especially in that first half. They somehow lost their ability to play football. They lost their ability to get the ball under control and drive with the ball, make a few passes to try and counter-attack. Their game plan was to counter-attack Manchester City. But if you are not going to be able to make passes, then you can't counter-attack anyone because you can't go forward without making a few passes, even if you are a counter-attacking side. So they were completely outplayed in that first half. They were bizarre. They were 4-0 down and probably should have been more because City did get a few other opportunities. They hit the post through a Gundogan free kick. On another day, that could have been a goal and it would have been 5-0. So I think they were completely outplayed by Manchester City and completely deserved to lose. I don't take any positives from them scoring 3 goals in the second half because you can't start playing after you're 4-0 down. It's easier to play after you're 4-0 down. Why? Because you have nothing to lose. You're already losing the game, so you might as well play. So, like, I'm not, like, if I was a United fan, I wouldn't take anything from scoring 3 goals in the second half, especially when 2 of them were against a defense for Manchester City that was all over the place because of the changes that were made. So I think they were completely atrocious. I think they should just forget about that game, go on to the next game, obviously playing against Everton, who are playing decent. They've been decent so far this season. They're getting points on the board. They're winning a few games. And the major improvement that they've had from last season is that they're keeping clean sheets. They signed Conor Cody in the summer, and they signed James Tarkowski from Burnley, who were relegated, obviously. And I think in there you have 2 experienced Premier League defenders who've played in the Premier League for a number of years now, because Burnley were in the Premier League for a number of years before they were relegated last season. So you have Conor Cody and you have James Tarkowski, who are decent Premier League centre-backs. And as a result, Everton are able to keep clean sheets. And Jordan Pickford is obviously a very good goalkeeper. He can be electric from time to time in terms of making saves. And the fixture is also at Goodison Park, which is a very difficult place to go to. It's not easy going to Goodison Park. And the crowd at Goodison Park is always raucous. And the stadium is really small. And therefore, the noise levels go up a notch because the fans are so close to the football pitch. So I don't think it will be an easy game for Man United, simply because it's at Goodison Park. Everton are going to be confident because they are playing decent. Like they're playing at a decent level so far this season. They're keeping clean sheets. They're making it tough. They are tough to beat. And Jordan Pickford is able to have a man of the match performance when Everton's backs are against the wall. Which I guess Man United might attack them a few times, and they might obviously kind of create loads of opportunities. But Everton kind of have that mentality now that they are able to weather the storm. They even when their backs are against the wall, they are able to hang in there. They're able to keep a clean sheet. They're able to progress through a game, and they are also, like, I wouldn't say potent going forward, but they are decent. They do score a few goals. I think Neil Maupay has given them a bit of a presence up top, even though he's not a clinical finisher. But it's better than having a winger playing up top like Anthony Gordon, which they were playing Anthony Gordon at the beginning of the season up top. And you can't play a winger, especially a young player, as your striker, because, I mean, he does not have the awareness and the physical capabilities of playing in the Premier League against tall centre-backs, playing as a striker. So they've improved massively from last season. They're difficult to beat. Like last season, they were one of the easiest teams to play against, but they're difficult to beat. They are decent going forward. They can score a goal out of every maybe 4 chances they get. So, like, I think it's going to be a tough game for Man United. I think also the fact that it's at Goodison Park, that's also like an added element to the game, that like Everton are always very difficult to beat at Goodison Park. We also struggled at Goodison Park, I say we as in Manchester City, last season. When we went to Goodison Park, we're actually lucky to get the win because Everton, we won 1-0 in the end. Everton should have actually gotten a penalty in that game because Rodri handled the ball in the box. And how the refs came to a decision or came to a conclusion that it was not a handball, I don't know. I would have been livid if that was against me because that was a blatant handball. Even Rodri, when you looked at him, you could tell that he's guilty. Like, you could tell that he feels like, I got away with one there. So I think it's going to be a very difficult game for Man United. I don't know in terms of Erik ten Hag, in terms of his team selection, especially after that atrocious performance against Manchester City. I think he might opt for Casemiro instead of McTominay in midfield. I think that would be a good decision for him because that would kind of give them more going forward, because Casemiro is able to sit back and kind of protect the backline on his own. And as a result, you are able to add an attacking player in the team. And you can kind of have an insurance policy when you have Casemiro there, because he's a really experienced, seasoned professional playing in that position, and he knows the ins and outs of playing as the holding midfielder. And the amount of tactical fouls that Casemiro has done in his career and gotten away without even a yellow card, it's up there with the best. So I think Erik ten Hag should probably play Casemiro so that he can have more going forward. But obviously, he's going to do whatever he feels like is going to win him the game. But I think it's going to be a tough game at Goodison Park against Everton. Especially the Man United players' confidence would have been rocked a little bit after being 4-0 down and after being 6-1 at the 80th minute against Manchester City. Even though Manchester City are up there with the best teams in Europe, if not the best team in Europe. I know we haven't won the Champions League to warrant that, but in terms of our general play, we are probably the best team in Europe. So I don't think it's the litmus test for Man United, because they are kind of rebuilding their squad. They're rebuilding their team under Erik ten Hag. But I think it's going to be a difficult game for them against Everton at Goodison Park, simply because of how solid Everton are whenever they play at Goodison Park. But yeah, guys, I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw between Everton and Man United. I'm gonna go for 1-1. I think it's gonna be a tough game for United. I don't see them winning. I'm gonna go for a 1-1 draw. And then yeah, guys, I'll wrap up the video there. I am gonna do another video because I want to. Obviously, I haven't previewed the Liverpool Arsenal game here. So I'll actually make a separate video for that, and I'll preview that game on its own. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching the video. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the channel and please push the notification bell so that you can get notified each time I post a new video. Also, please push the like button, guys, to like the video. It really massively helps with the YouTube algorithm. And yeah, guys, man, I appreciate the support that you're giving the channel. I appreciate the following. I appreciate the likes. Please keep on liking the videos. I would really appreciate that. And yeah, guys, have a great evening. I'll see you in the next video when I'll be previewing the game between Liverpool and Arsenal. Cracking game of the weekend. Super Sunday. So I'll be previewing that game just now. Have a great evening, guys. Thank you for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.